Whoa. Wow. Outside, it is icing everywhere. See my breath maybe in the video, I don't know, but everywhere in the United States has just been hit with this crazy ice storm, and we here in Virginia are no different. And so it got me to thinking, you know, I get questions all the time about what do you do, how do you prepare for an event like this? And so I kind of put together a few different things, but you know, for us it's really simple here. I will link the blog post. I made a blog post about this and giving you like literally a prepper list of the stuff that you need in an emergency situation, but it's really simple. And I was going to show you just a couple of things today. So being in Virginia, we are not used to ice necessarily. We do get snow, ice. We have some ice storms every now and then, but nothing like what we've been getting over the last few weeks. And it's really important to make sure that you have a lot of the things that you need on hand before you actually need them. So the first thing is straw. Straw is a huge ordeal if you have livestock. But besides straw, that's the obvious, you also need to make sure you have a 3-month supply of food on hand. Because what if you can't get out? What if your animals go through, naturally they'll go through more when they don't have forage. Naturally they'll go through more when they don't have a food source outside of their regular feed ration. And so you need to make sure that you have at least 3-month supply of feed on hand at all time. Not, oh, I used up my 3-month supply and now I've got to go get more. You should always replenish what you take out. And so this is something that we've been good at for a few years, but we've also been bad. The next thing to think about is your water source. What happens if your pipes freeze? A lot of people are figuring that out right now. Their pipes are freezing, they can't get water to their livestock. What do you do? So what's your alternate water source? How are you going to get water to your animals? The easiest way to do that is to have a water source on your property. So whether it's a pond or a stream that's consistently running, make sure that you have a water source. There's other ways by setting up constantly running water sources, whether you have a pond or a stream that you can kind of chuck up to your property or down to your property. And those are things that you need to think about, especially when you are thinking about buying a property or renting a property, is what's the water source like there? So if you didn't prepare in advance for that when you bought or rented, we need to prepare in advance for that now. The next thing is shelter for your livestock. A lot of people, especially in Texas, are finding out that they really do need shelter, even for, you know, cows. Even if it's just a tree line where the cows can go under. There's things like that that people have to think about and that they don't think about. So those are things to take into consideration. Some other things you need to think about are things that are not livestock related. You need to think about yourself. You need to think about your family. What about your food source? What does your food source look like? Do you have a few weeks of food on hand, a few months, 6 months, a year? You should, because you never know what could happen. And that can be a little bit difficult for people. So that portion of this video might be easier if you just go and look at it on the blog post. It kind of lays it out for you, like a list of things you should have on hand at all times. Again, rotation is key, and making sure that whatever you're using, you're rotating out. That's really, really important. Water is another huge food source. There are a lot of people without power right now that cannot get water. They have a well, they can't get water. So there are things like having an alternative pump or making a PVC hand draw like a well for your well. That's really, really simple. That works for your livestock as well. But it's also good to have, even if you can't get water, to have some kind of filtration system on hand, and that's where the Berkey water system comes into play. And I've linked that below. We have a Berkey, we love it, we don't ever want to live without one. It is the best water filtration system we've ever had, so I highly recommend it. One of the most obvious things you need to think about is light. How are you going to get light if most of us live with power naturally? And so we really, really loved the Coast products. They have a lot of great light options, from lanterns and flashlights and even bigger things. We really recommend them. We have used them for years, but they have actually sent us a few products, and we have just loved them for years. My husband has used them, my child has used them. They have headlamps that are amazing, and we really enjoy them. So we'll have to do another video specifically on those lights one day. I don't want to take up too much time today, but I wanted to just put that product out there for you too. You never know when you might need light, especially when you're going to a chicken coop at night or going to check cows without power and electricity. And so light is very vital if you're used to using it. And so make sure it's not just stuck in a drawer somewhere. Make sure you actually have it on hand, especially if you know there's a natural disaster coming or a storm of some kind. Or even if you're not prepared for that to happen and it's some other issue that could be happening, like war or anything like that, you want to have that stuff on hand and readily available so that you know where it is and your entire family knows where it is. Another thing people don't think about, I actually read this on my Facebook page from a couple of people, is having the proper protective gear. So it's wintertime. If you don't have a really good winter jacket and a snowsuit, or at least some snow pants or a Carhartt overalls and a really good pair of boots, then you really need to get some, even if you're used to living in an area that doesn't typically get ice and snow. Because what happens if you have to leave your property or you get stuck somewhere on your property and you are not prepared with your winter gear? There was a girl on my Facebook page who said, you know, the night before the storm hit in Texas, she had washed all their winter clothing. Well, it wasn't in the dryer before the storm hit. Now they had nothing. Think about those things. Always have those things prepared. Don't just have one set, have two sets, so that you are prepared at all times in case something happens to the other set. Likewise, you really need to think about having a go bag. And if you don't know what a go bag is, go bags are things that have like hand warmers and food and water packages that are non-perishable, medical supplies, lighting, hatchet normally is in there, maybe even a tent, extra heat blanket. These are things you should have ready to go. You know where they are in case you have to leave your property. What if there's flooding? What if there's a fire? You never know what could happen. Likewise, you should have a bag in each and every vehicle that you have, especially if you get stranded somewhere. What if you get stranded on the property if you have a large property? What if you get stranded in another city over? You know, those are things to think about so that you have those things on hand at all times. Medical supplies are something that a lot of people don't think about, especially all natural medicine. Really, if you're not going to be able to get to the pharmacy when everything shuts down, and if you don't have medical supplies already on hand, then you're kind of out of luck. Make sure that you have, if you take prescriptions, make sure that you have at least a 3-month supply of prescriptions on hand at all times, because you never know when you're going to need them. More likely, though, you need to educate yourself in herbal remedies. Hey, Make sure you educate yourself in how to reduce fever naturally, how to take care of headaches, how to take care of the common cold. I have all this information on my blog, or at least a lot of it that you can find. And you can also consider taking my Homestead Herbalist mini course about viruses. You never know when you might need it. And it's really good to be educated on those things, because there are a lot of things that you can treat at home on your own as long as you're prepared with the right herbal remedies and the right herbal preparations. And more than anything, you're gonna have to be prepared mentally and physically and spiritually, and that's something that you're gonna have to take care of yourself. But keep that in mind, because that's a really big deal as well. There are a lot of things that people just don't think about. And so hopefully this video and the blog post that I mentioned will help you out and get you prepared for the next natural disaster, the next issue that could arise. I mean, look at 2020. Who knew we would have so many issues in 2020? Food being off the shelves and things like that. And so it's better to be prepared than not. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you a little bit of insight into being prepared. It's not a weird conspiracy theory thing. It's just common sense, and it's your responsibility as a homesteader, as a livestock owner especially, to have things on hand, and just as for your family as well, to have all these things on hand. A lot of people are finding out in the last 2 years that these things can happen, whether it's a natural disaster or a virus or a government shutdown. This is normal life now, and I think we all better learn how to get used to it and learn how to be prepared for it. So if this is the worst we've had in the decades that we've been alive, think of just how much worse it could get and what you wouldn't be prepared for. Take these steps and get prepared for it so that you can have peace of mind and confidence when the rest of your city or town or community is losing theirs. Because it's so important to be just a beacon of hope and light in such a dark time. And maybe even you can help someone else out with all the preparations that you have. All right, guys, have a great day and happy homesteading.
Hey, speaking of protective gear, I love these Hesea boots. I have linked them below. They're the most comfortable boots I've ever had, and you should get a pair.